In the quiet town of Maple Heights, Michigan, tragedy struck a marriage that everyone believed was picture-perfect. Dr. Eleanor Grace, a brilliant young toxicologist, was found dead in her home, an apparent case of cardiac arrest. But when investigators took a closer look, they discovered traces of a drug so rare it wasn't even stocked in local hospitals. The chilling twist? It was the same antidote Eleanor's husband, also a medical researcher, had been developing to save lives. He claimed it was meant to heal, but in the end, it became the weapon that killed her. When people talked about the Graces, they used words like power couple and destined for greatness. Eleanor Grace, 33, was a toxicologist working for the state's Environmental Health Division. Her husband, Dr. Nathan Grace, 36, was a biomedical researcher developing antidotes for industrial poisoning. They met during a conference in 2016, two young scientists who fell in love over shared late nights and laboratory chaos. Their home was modest but bright, white walls, neat bookshelves, two coffee mugs permanently labeled her experiments and his theories. They had no children, but their life seemed full: morning jogs, lab deadlines, dinner with friends. Neighbors described Eleanor as gentle and organized. Nathan, on the other hand, was brilliant but distant. He could talk for hours about chemistry, one colleague said, but not 10 seconds about emotion. To outsiders, it was balance. To Eleanor's sister, Maya, it was control. By early 2024, Eleanor began complaining of constant nausea and fatigue. She brushed it off as stress. After all, she'd been working on a major chemical exposure case involving contaminated water near a factory. Nathan offered to help. He monitored her vitals, checked her temperature, prescribed vitamins. He told her to rest, but rest didn't help. Within weeks, Eleanor began to lose her appetite. Her hair thinned, her voice grew weak, and she started missing work. When Maya visited one weekend, she found Eleanor pale and trembling, her once steady hands shaking as she poured tea. "Ellie, you need to go to the hospital," Maya urged. "I already did," Eleanor whispered. "They said my blood work looks strange, but Nathan's helping me. He's running some tests of his own." Maya didn't trust that answer, but Eleanor was too exhausted to argue. On June 18, 2024, at 10:47 p.m., a 911 call came from the Grace residence. "My wife's not breathing," Nathan shouted. "She collapsed. Please, send help." Paramedics arrived within minutes. They found Eleanor unconscious on the living room floor, pulse faint, foam at the corner of her lips. Nathan knelt beside her, performing CPR with robotic precision. She was rushed to St. Mark's Hospital, but despite resuscitation efforts, Eleanor Grace was pronounced dead at 11:29 p.m. Cause of death: cardiac arrest, secondary to unknown toxic reaction. Nathan wept in the hospital hallway. Reporters later wrote that he looked every inch the devastated husband. But one person didn't buy it: Maya. At the funeral, Maya noticed Nathan's composure. Too calm, too measured. While others cried, he talked logistics. He didn't flinch when the coroner mentioned toxic reaction. Instead, he asked detailed medical questions as if studying the situation. Later, when police released Eleanor's personal belongings, Maya found a small leather notebook in her sister's purse. The final pages contained fragmented notes: persistent metallic taste. Symptoms match exposure to alkaloid compound? Nathan's new trial compound. Unknown side effects? If something happens, check freezer. Maya froze. The freezer? She rushed to Eleanor's house, still sealed but not yet restricted, and checked. Behind the ice trays sat 3 small vials labeled S9A. She took photos and handed them to police. That act changed everything. The toxicology lab confirmed that S9A wasn't a standard medication. It was an experimental alkaloid antidote developed by Nathan Grace, never approved for public use. The compound was meant to neutralize certain neurotoxins by binding to nerve receptors. But in unstable doses, it could overbind, shutting down vital systems, including the heart. Detectives confronted Nathan. He insisted Eleanor volunteered for a small internal trial. She wanted to help test it, he said. She knew the risks, but her colleagues denied that claim. Eleanor had told them she was uncomfortable with Nathan's secret experiments. She'd said, "He's testing compounds that haven't passed ethics review yet." When police searched Nathan's lab, they found detailed records, metabolic data, timestamps, even journal entries describing her symptoms as though he were documenting a study. Day 17. Subject complains of dizziness. Day 28. Gastrointestinal distress intensifying. Heart rate fluctuations observed. Prediction: full system failure imminent. The word subject chilled investigators. He wasn't caring for his wife. He was conducting research on her. But why would Nathan kill his wife? The answer came through financial forensics. Investigators uncovered that Nathan had applied for a private patent on S9A in his own name, excluding Eleanor, who had helped design the molecular prototype years earlier. If the drug proved effective, the rights and royalties could be worth millions. Emails revealed that Eleanor had recently emailed the research board to withdraw her approval for continued testing and requested that all joint intellectual property be frozen. She wrote, "Nathan's experiments are unsafe. I can't be part of this anymore." That email was timestamped June 17th, just one day before she died. Police combed through Nathan's devices. They discovered encrypted folders with data on dosage trials, toxicity limits, and simulations predicting cardiac shutdown based on specific mg/kg levels. The file names were chillingly clinical: toxicologist final, lethal tolerance estimation, test 4. Administered at 21:30, predicted fatality 2300 hours. The timestamps matched the night Eleanor collapsed. Investigators also retrieved search history logs. How long does alkaloid toxicity take to cause death? Can cardiac arrest mimic natural causes? Best way to neutralize traces of lab compound in blood. The evidence was overwhelming. Nathan was arrested on charges of first-degree murder and unlawful human experimentation. The courtroom buzzed with journalists and medical professionals. Everyone wanted to know how a scientist dedicated to saving lives could weaponize his research. The prosecution presented the vials, the lab notes, the journal entries, and forensic testimony. Eleanor's sister, Maya, testified tearfully, recounting her sister's declining health and the cryptic notebook entries. Nathan's defense argued that Eleanor volunteered, that her death was an unforeseeable reaction, but prosecutors dismantled that claim using timestamps, proving he increased her doses secretly. The turning point came when a data analyst decrypted a hidden flash drive recovered from Nathan's car. Inside was a voice memo. "Nathan, recording if this works. S9A will be mine alone." She hesitated. She wanted to stop me. But science doesn't stop because of fear. Gasps filled the courtroom. He had confessed unwittingly to both motive and intent. After deliberating for just 6 hours, the jury returned a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Nathan Grace was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. The judge's closing words echoed through the courtroom. "You used knowledge meant to heal as a tool to destroy. That is not science, it is betrayal." In the months following the verdict, Eleanor's story spread nationwide. Scientists and ethicists debated how such crimes could be prevented. The state established the Eleanor Grace Bioethics Fund, dedicated to protecting whistleblowers in medical research and tightening oversight on private lab testing. Maya often visited her sister's grave, a quiet place under a maple tree. On the tombstone were engraved Eleanor's favorite words: "Knowledge is sacred, only when guided by conscience." Sometimes Maya spoke to her softly, "You won, Ellie. He'll never hurt anyone again." In the end, justice was served. But the story of Eleanor Grace remains a haunting reminder. The greatest danger isn't always a stranger in the dark. Sometimes, it's the person you trust the most, armed not with a weapon, but with knowledge. And when that knowledge loses its conscience, it can destroy everything it once vowed to protect. What drives a man of science to turn into a killer?